William Murphy had his whole New Year's Eve service where he had a swag surfing ordeal going on.
Y'all keep it sanctified. I need you to walk it out. Come on.
And people had some things to say about it. Even I shared a few words in response to what happened there and why it shouldn't have really took place, or why that was just a little bit too far. Well, he was in an interview where he was asked if he would do that again, even after all the backlash that he got, all the correction that people were coming and giving him. He was asked if he would do it again, and this is what he said. I want to show you this clip. Let's go over it. We're going to dissect it in a bit. Let's see what happens.
A month later, would you swag surf again?
150 people.
That's not
Came
bad. I
to
know
the
what
altar.
happened. Would you do it again?
Absolutely. Other Christians took a 90-second clip and drew a carnal conclusion for 18 years of ministry. It's supposed to grow.
Right.
We are supposed to draw people of all thoughts and culture and concept. It's not some members only club. The whole point of the church is to make disciples. And this is God demonstrating to a generation that you don't have to be perfect to be used, that you don't have to have it all right, that you don't have to be error-free to be used of God in a significant way. I don't know who's watching this, but just grab a hold of that. That's for you. Because the enemy's tried to tell you, because of your mistakes and because of what you're struggling with right now, that you are not useful. He is a liar.
Okay, so he made some good points there in the end, but although those were good points, and we'll get to those, that's not really what he was asking him. That's not really what he was asked, and that's not what we're talking about. He kept going over and over here the same way that he did in his past responses after people gave him some backlash for what he did. He kept mentioning how 150 people got saved. Here he mentioned 150 people were at the altar. 150 people. And even the gentleman that asked him was going to even reiterate, I'm not asking about that. I'm not mentioning that. That's not what we're here to talk about. That I get that 150 people got saved. And the reason why I feel like he keeps pointing towards that is because he thinks that that's like a shutdown response. Like, because I got 150 people saved, it really does not matter how I got them saved. That's essentially the message he's sending in responding the way that he's responding. But this is where I believe that it connects to where I mentioned about Michael Todd and his recent response to the backlash that he was getting for his very far out there sermon strategies. They fail to take accountability. We're talking about one thing here. We're mentioning one singular event. And in regards to how people responded to it, and he mentioned, and we'll run it back, he mentioned that, oh, Christians took a 90-second clip and we made a carnal assumption about it. But nah, what I would say is that the 90-second clip, whether it was a 30-second clip or even a 15-second clip, it was enough to see with spiritual eyes, not carnal eyes, with spiritual eyes, that there was carnal activity going on. It's not that we were looking at it with carnal eyes, judging spiritual, like there was nothing spiritual about that. Now, 150 people got saved. That's beautiful. Just like I mentioned before, that is a beautiful thing for 150 people to get saved at one service, one event. That's awesome. Now, 150 people could have gotten saved, but what you're saying is essentially is that 150 people got saved solely because you meshed the world with the church. Now, I understand, and he talks about it, people got to go from all different backgrounds. We got to reach out. We're supposed to grow. I get it. But churches, I believe, and leaders are using that true statement. We are supposed to grow. We are. We're supposed to make disciples. That's true. That is a very factual point. But we're using that factual point and we're abusing that by saying that anything and everything can go on because we just need to bring the outside people in. But we have to believe that the Spirit of God can and does work well enough to save people. And it was the Spirit of God that saved people. So there's no denying that the Spirit of God wasn't present during that time. We're not denying those things, but all we're saying is if he could just openly, I guess, take some accountability and maybe just talk on that. All we're really saying is would you do it again, knowing that you have struck some sort of controversy in this area, given your position as a bishop, as an artist, a Christian artist? Would you do something like this again? And the fact that he goes on and says yes, it tells me he's not accepting and not willing to accept accountability. Let's run this back.
My goodness.
A month later, would you swag surf again?
150 people.
There goes that response again. I asked you a direct question. Would you swag surf again? It's swag surfing. That's what you were doing. And you had worldly music going in. I guess you could call it a swag surf. I guess there's nothing wrong with swag and surf. Like swag is just a good material. You know what I mean? Good style, whatever, good fame. Surfing is just surfing. Whether you're doing a body surf or you're actually surfing the waves on a surfboard. I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. But how come we had to play the worldly music, the Walk It Out song? How come we had to include that? Because some of those lyrics in there, they weren't even bleeped. It's not even like they went with a clean version. I mean, they just went all out. So why couldn't we just be creative without going too far? That's the same thing I mentioned in my video about Michael Todd and his responses. Why do we have to go so far? Why can't we just be creative, but be creative without corrupting the word of God and the mission, which is to create disciples? But we want to make sure we're creating them on the right path. You see what I'm saying? We don't have to be so like manipulative. That's the thing. I feel like, yes, we are supposed to grow, but is the desire to grow naturally, or is the desire to grow selfishly? Because if it's selfishly, yeah, we're going to find all these like quick ways and little schemes and fun things to do. And that's when you start teeter-tottering that line a little too much. You know what I mean? That's when that gray area, you know, you start getting into the gray area and things aren't as decisive as what God, I believe, would want them to be. White and black, yes or no, just a little bit more decisive. But let's keep this going.
That's not
Came
package. I
to
know
the
what
altar.
happened. Would you do it again?
Absolutely. Other Christians took a 90-second clip and drew a carnal conclusion for 18 years of ministry. It's supposed to grow.
Right.
We are supposed to draw people of all thoughts and culture and concept. It's not some members only club. The whole point of the church is to make disciples. And this is God demonstrating to a generation that you don't have to be perfect to be used.
Now, I like this message that he's sharing because it is true. Those are all true. Like, you don't have to be perfect to be used. You don't have to be perfect to be saved. You don't have to be those things. Like, God did everything that he needed to do so that way we have freedom to really just go to the throne, ask for forgiveness, accept his name, you know what I mean? Go be baptized and you be saved, man. And you just be, you know, able to move on from there. That's a good message. I get that. But I noticed in running this back, he's never responded as to why he would do it again. Because we know what happened. 150 people got saved and all that. We know it. Even the gentleman there, like I said, who's interviewing him, we already know that. But why would you do it again? He said absolutely. But why would you do it again? Why? Just went on to saying the mission of the church. Yeah, that is the mission of the church. Everyone knows the mission of the church. We're not confused about the mission of the church. I guess we're really confused about how these leaders are starting to change the way they're going about accomplishing the mission of the church. You don't have to join in with so many different types of new age things to get people to come into God, man, to get people to accept Christ. This message that he's saying here, and we'll play it out to the end, it's a good message that every believer should know. But that message right there, since it is truth, if you really believe it, if these leaders really believe that, because that's truth, what he's saying right here at the end, we're going to show it right now in a bit, that's truth. So if you really believe the truth, you leave it at that. because that truth right there is enough to set somebody free just by knowing that. And you speak it to them with conviction, because I believe it, that you do not have to be perfect in order for God to save you. You do not have to be perfect to have a relationship with God. Even after you accept God, you still do not have to be perfect, because this is a journey. This is a journey in which God will continue and continue to help you grow and change internally and fix things about you and help you get through things that you need help with. But if you really believe it as a leader, you leave it at that. But I don't think that they really believe it, which is why I think that they start to go too far when they're trying to express or explain this simple truth. It goes so far that you starts getting too confusing. You know what I mean? You let too much room in for the enemy to have his way, for the enemy to start playing and start confusing the minds of people. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be so focused on the new that you're departing from the old. So you have new people coming in, but eventually the new people are going to start saying, what happened to the old people that used to be here? What's going on? Did something change? Is this wrong? Are we starting to move into more of an occult situation? Or is this really just a free, faith-based relationship that we're building, each of us, with Christ? You got to be careful with this stuff, man. These leaders, they really got to be careful. And I know that there's that desire to always want to be right because you are a leader, but I guarantee you'd get a lot more, as they say, bees with honey. You get a lot more respect, I think, if you just accept accountability and to humble yourself, because that's what God looks for in each and every one of us. Can we humble ourselves enough to be able to receive correction? That's where that growth can come from. We're looking for physical growth where we can see anything we can do to get more people in the church, but people will be attracted to the spirit of the church and the people that are in that church that have the Spirit of God, that are actually working on it. They can feel that genuinity in the people that are there. They can feel that the mission of the church is being carried out, and it's being carried out without any confusion. It's simple. The message of Jesus Christ is simple. It's a beloved message. It's a great message. You don't have to be perfect in order for God to save you. That's all I got for you guys on this one, man. I appreciate it if you guys stayed this long as always. To the next one. I'm out.